Give me back my money now or I'm going to the police. The words hung in the air like smoke from a fired gun. Mom actually laughed. A sound I'd never heard from her before, cold, calculating, stripped of any maternal warmth I'd once imagined existed. "Don't be ridiculous," she said, casually flipping through her magazine as if we were discussing the weather. "You won't go to the police. I'm your mother." Standing in that living room, staring at the woman who'd given birth to me, I felt something inside me break. Not shatter dramatically, but crack quietly, like ice beginning to split under pressure. The $17,500 I'd saved over 5 years of grueling work, gone. Transferred to her account while I was halfway around the world on a business trip, trusting that the key I'd never given her couldn't possibly exist. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how we got here, how a 7-year-old girl in a purple butterfly dress became a woman standing in a courtroom, watching her own mother sentenced for theft. I remember that day when everything changed, when Mom and Dad sat me down in our living room with the kind of forced calm that adults use when they're about to turn a child's world upside down. I was 7, clutching my worn teddy bear, the one with the missing eye that I'd refused to let anyone fix. They explained divorce like it was a business transaction, neat, clean, divided down the middle. The house went to Mom, Dad moved to his new apartment, and I got 2 bedrooms. Maybe I should have cried. Maybe I should have screamed or thrown things or demanded they stay together like kids do in movies. Instead, I just nodded and asked if I could keep my teddy bear in both rooms. Dad, being Dad, made sure we were taken care of financially. The alimony checks arrived like clockwork, and I never wanted for anything material. But money, I would learn much later, has a way of revealing people's true nature. About a year after the divorce, Dad met Sarah. I still remember that first meeting at the Silver Spoon Diner, how she had kind eyes that crinkled at the corners when she smiled. Her son Tommy, 3 years younger than me, looked up from his French fries and asked, "Are you going to be my sister?" I liked them immediately. Not because Sarah tried too hard or showered me with gifts, but because she was real. When she tucked me into bed that first night I stayed at their house, she kissed my forehead and said, "You know, Brittany, I always wanted a daughter." Around the same time, Mom started dating Richard. He moved in quickly, and I noticed Mom seemed different, distracted, always touching her stomach when she thought no one was looking. They married at City Hall in a small ceremony, and 2 months later, Emily was born. I remember standing in that hospital room, watching Richard hover over Mom and the tiny pink bundle in her arms. They looked like a complete picture, a perfect family portrait. I stood in the corner, shifting from foot to foot, suddenly understanding what it meant to be an outsider looking in. Richard came from old money, the kind of family where appearances mattered more than substance. His own mother had been a socialite who measured love in terms of what you could provide, what you could show off. He'd grown up believing that financial success was the only metric that mattered, and he'd found in Mom someone who shared that worldview. Mom, I realize now, had grown up poor. Really poor. The kind of childhood where you count pennies and dream of security that never comes. When she married Dad, she tasted financial stability for the first time. When they divorced, she was terrified of losing that security. Richard represented not just love, but the promise that she'd never have to worry about money again. Emily became their golden child, the symbol of their perfect new life together. And I became the reminder of Mom's first marriage, the inconvenient leftover from her previous life. The forgetting started small. Little things at first, then bigger ones. I remember standing outside school in the rain after the parent-teacher conference, watching other kids leave with their parents. Mrs. Johnson, my 4th grade teacher, waited with me for almost an hour before calling Mom. "Oh God, was that today?" Mom's voice crackled through the phone. "I'm so sorry, I was at Emily's Mommy and Me class. We never rescheduled." Richard picked me up that day, barely glancing at me as he drove home, talking on his phone about work the whole time. But it was my 10th birthday that really opened my eyes. I woke up excited, ran downstairs expecting at least a happy birthday from Mom. Instead, I found her cooing over Emily in the kitchen. "Mom," I said, hovering by the doorway, "do you know what day it is?" She looked up, distracted. "Tuesday? Oh, I need to take Emily to her doctor's appointment. It's my birthday." The silence that followed felt like an eternity. Her eyes widened in what looked like genuine surprise, but I was old enough to recognize the performance. "Oh, Brittany, I'm so sorry. We'll celebrate this weekend, okay? I just have so much going on today with Emily's checkup." The weekend came and went. No one mentioned my birthday again. It became easier to spend time at Dad's house after that. Sarah always made sure my favorite snacks were in the pantry. Tommy and I would spend hours playing video games or doing homework together. Dad never missed a single school event, and Sarah often came too, taking pictures and beaming like I was her own daughter. After about 6 months of me basically living at Dad's full-time, he decided to make it official. "I called your mom today," he told me one evening. "I think it makes sense for you to live here permanently. You're already here most of the time anyway," and I told her I'd stop the alimony payments since I'm taking care of you full-time now. Within hours, Mom was at the door, all worried looks and loving words. "Sweetie, I've missed you so much," she said, hugging me for the first time in what felt like forever. "I've been thinking about everything, and I want us to go back to our original arrangement. I want you home with me half the time, like before." I was 12 by then, old enough to see through it. The sudden concern, the promises to do better, it wasn't about missing me. It was about the money. Dad's alimony checks were the real reason she wanted me back. Emily started rubbing it in my face when she was 5. She'd follow me around the house with this smug little smile, dropping her bombs when Mom and Richard weren't within earshot. "Daddy says you're not really part of our family," she told me one day while I was doing homework at the kitchen table. "He says you're just visiting." I tried to ignore her, focusing on my math problems, but she kept going. "Mommy and Daddy love me more than you. Last night, Daddy told Mommy he was tired of you being here, and Mommy said, just wait until you turn 18. Then the money stops and you'll be gone." It hurt, of course it did. But I'd learned to build walls around that pain. I had Dad and Sarah, who showed me what real family love looked like. I had Tommy, who was more of a sibling to me than Emily would ever be. Still, hearing your own mother basically counting down the days until she didn't have to deal with you anymore, that leaves scars that never fully heal. High school graduation felt like a prison sentence commutation. I sat between my two families during the ceremony, Dad, Sarah, and Tommy on one side, Mom, Richard, and Emily on the other. It felt like sitting between two different worlds. After the ceremony, Dad hugged me tight. "We're so proud of you, Princess." Meanwhile, Mom and Richard were already talking about my departure before we even left the school parking lot. "So," Richard said, jingling his car keys, "have you started packing yet?" They didn't ask about my college plans. Didn't care that I'd gotten into the business program with a partial scholarship. They just wanted to know when I'd be out of their hair. 2 weeks later, I moved my things to Dad's house permanently. I remember sitting in his living room, nervous about asking for help with college expenses, even though I knew he'd never refuse. "Dad, I got accepted to the financial analyst program," I said, playing with the acceptance letter in my hands. "I got a partial scholarship, but," before I could finish, Dad and Sarah exchanged glances and smiled. "We've already got it covered, honey," Sarah said, pulling out a folder. "We've been saving for your college fund since you were 8. College was a blur of new faces and experiences. I threw myself into my studies, determined to prove that I didn't need their approval to succeed. I called Dad and Sarah at least twice a week, and they came to visit whenever they could. Mom never called. Not once. My 19th birthday came and went without even a text message from her. Later that night, I made the mistake of checking her Facebook page. There they were, dozens of pictures of her perfect family. Mom, Richard, and Emily at the beach, Emily's dance recital, family dinners, holiday celebrations. Each photo carefully staged to show their happiness, each caption talking about family time and loving my family. I wasn't in any of them, of course. I'd been cropped out of their family portrait long ago. After graduation, Sarah's brother Mark offered me a position at his investment firm. The interview went well, and he was clear about expectations. "Your credentials are impressive," he said, reviewing my resume. "But I need to be clear, the fact that you're my sister's stepdaughter won't earn you any favors here. You'll have to prove yourself just like everyone else." "I wouldn't want it any other way," I replied. I worked harder than I'd ever worked before. Taking on projects nobody else wanted, staying late to perfect financial models, developing comprehensive growth strategies for our clients. The results spoke for themselves. Client portfolios under my management showed remarkable growth, and the company's revenue increased significantly. Mark noticed. He didn't play favorites, but he believed in rewarding good work. The bonuses and raises came because I'd earned them, not because I was family. I had a solid plan. Every month, I put away a chunk of my salary into my savings account. I researched the housing market thoroughly, looking for the perfect property. I wanted something modest but comfortable, maybe with a small garden. Most importantly, I wanted to make a substantial down payment to keep the monthly mortgage payments manageable. Then came the phone call that changed everything. I was at my desk reviewing quarterly reports when my phone lit up with a number I hadn't seen in years. "Brittany, sweetie." Mom's voice was syrupy sweet. "I've been thinking about you so much lately." I nearly dropped my coffee. 9 years of silence, and now this. "How are you, Mom?" I kept my voice neutral. "Oh honey, I miss you. We all do. Why don't you come over for dinner this weekend? Emily's home from college, and Richard's making his famous pot roast." Curiosity got the better of me. That Saturday, I pulled up to my old house in my new Mercedes, nothing flashy, but reliable and professional. Emily answered the door, looking me up and down with poorly concealed interest. "Nice car," she said by way of greeting. Throughout dinner, they peppered me with questions about my job, my salary, my car. Mom kept mentioning how expensive everything was these days, especially with Emily in college. "That's such a beautiful watch," Mom commented, reaching for my wrist. "Must have cost a fortune." I smiled politely. "It was a birthday gift from Dad and Sarah." "Of course it was," she said, her smile tightening slightly. "They always did spoil you." That dinner turned into more invitations. Suddenly, Mom wanted to be part of my life again. She'd call regularly, stop by my apartment unannounced with Emily in tow, invite me to family dinners. Emily would wander around my modest apartment, examining everything with calculating eyes. "This place is kind of small," she commented once. "I thought you made good money." I kept my responses vague. "It suits my needs." Mom would chime in, "But surely you're planning to upgrade soon with your salary?" Something about their sudden interest in my life made me uneasy. I should have trusted that instinct. It happened on a Sunday afternoon. Emily was over at my apartment, supposedly to bond with her big sister. I was in the kitchen making coffee when I heard her gasp from my living room. "Oh my God," she said, staring at my laptop screen. I'd left my banking app open after paying some bills. "Is that really how much money you have saved?" I quickly walked over and closed the laptop. "It's not polite to look at other people's private information, Emily." She ignored my comment. "Why are you saving so much? What's it for?" I hesitated but figured there was no harm in telling her. I'm planning to buy a house soon. I want to make a good down payment to keep the mortgage payments reasonable. Emily just nodded, but I could see the wheels turning behind her eyes. The very next day, Mom called to invite me to dinner. As soon as I sat down at their dining table, I knew something was up. Mom had that look she used to get when she was about to ask Dad for more child support. Emily tells me you're quite the saver, she said, passing the potatoes. That's wonderful, honey. You know, Emily's having such a hard time with college expenses, and she'll need an apartment after graduation. I took a bite of my food, saying nothing. It would be so nice if her successful big sister could help her out, Mom continued, her voice dripping with suggestion. Family helping family, you know. I put down my fork. I don't understand what you're getting at, Mom. Oh, come on, Brittany, she said, dropping the sweet act. You're clearly doing very well for yourself. Emily needs help with an apartment, and you have more than enough money saved up. It would be the right thing to do. I looked at her incredulously. The right thing to do? You mean give Emily my house down payment? Well, you're already established in your career, Richard chimed in. Emily's just starting out. She needs the help more than you do. I'm not established, I said firmly. I'm working hard and saving my money to build my own future. I'm not giving Emily my savings. Mom's face darkened. So you're just going to let your sister struggle while you sit on a pile of money? After all we've done for you? I almost laughed at that. All you've done for me? Like what, exactly? Forget my birthdays? Ignore me for years? Push me aside for Emily? You're being selfish, Richard muttered, not quite meeting my eyes. A real sister would want to help, Mom added coldly. A real mother would have been there for both her daughters, I shot back, standing up. I'm taking care of myself first. Emily is your responsibility, not mine. 2 weeks after that disastrous dinner, I had to leave for a business trip to Singapore. Mark had trusted me with an important client presentation, and I'd be out of reach for most of the time due to the time difference and packed schedule. I'll be gone for about 10 days, I told Mom when she called, trying to maintain some semblance of politeness despite our recent argument. Just letting you know I'll be out of contact. Oh, overseas? How nice for you, she replied, her voice oddly interested. The trip went well, but when I landed back home, my phone exploded with notifications as soon as I turned off airplane mode. Banking alerts. Dozens of them. My hand started shaking as I scrolled through them. Account transfer, $17,500. The world started spinning. I rushed home, threw open my laptop, and logged into my banking app. There it was, a massive transfer to an account I didn't recognize. But the name on the transfer was familiar, Patricia Warren. My mother's name. Which brings us back to where we started. Me, standing in their living room, demanding my money back. Mom, laughing like I told her the funniest joke in the world. How did you even get into my apartment? I asked, my voice shaking. Oh, honey, she reached into her purse and held up a key. Remember when I borrowed your bathroom that day I visited? It only takes a minute to make a copy. The casual way she said it, like copying someone's key without permission was the most natural thing in the world, made me feel sick to my stomach. We've already found Emily the perfect apartment, she continued. She loves it. 2 bedrooms, downtown, very trendy. Give me my money back, I repeated. Or what? Mom sneered. You'll send your own mother to jail? Please. You don't have the spine. Richard grabbed my arm and started pushing me toward the door. I think it's time for you to leave. This is your last chance, I warned them. Give me back my money. Mom's only response was to wave goodbye with a smirk. Richard shoved me out onto the porch and slammed the door in my face. The police station was quiet that night. I sat across from Detective Martinez, my hand steady as I filled out the complaint form. I had everything documented: the unauthorized transfer, screenshots of the banking app, text messages with my mother about my business trip. Richard called me that same night, his voice alternating between threats and pleas. "You need to withdraw the complaint," he demanded. "Do you have any idea what you're doing to your mother? She's crying." I hung up. Let her cry. I'd cried plenty of times over the years because of her. The legal process moved surprisingly quickly. The evidence was overwhelming, and Mom's arrogant admission to the theft didn't help her case. She sat in the courtroom playing the role of the repentant mother, tears streaming down her face as she promised to return every penny. "I just wanted to help my younger daughter," she sobbed to the judge. I let my maternal instincts cloud my judgment. I almost laughed out loud. Maternal instincts? Since when? The judge wasn't impressed. "Mrs. Warren, your maternal instincts led you to commit premeditated theft and fraud against your other daughter. The only reason you're not going to prison is that you've agreed to make full restitution and have no prior criminal record." She got a suspended sentence and was ordered to return my money within 30 days. I got a restraining order against both her and Richard, just to be safe. Dad and Sarah were with me through all of it. They sat behind me in court, brought me dinner when I was too exhausted to cook, and never once said, "I told you so," about letting Mom back into my life. "You did the right thing," Sarah told me after the sentencing. "They needed to learn they couldn't take advantage of you anymore." Tommy, in his typical fashion, tried to lighten the mood. "Well, at least now you know for sure which family actually loves you." He was right. The lines were clear now. 6 months have passed since then. My money is back in my account, earning interest while I house hunt. I've got my eye on a lovely 3-bedroom colonial with a fenced backyard, just 10 minutes from Dad and Sarah's place. The mortgage paperwork is being processed, and this time I'm the only one with keys to my home. Mom still tries to reach out sometimes, through relatives or mutual acquaintances. She claims she's changed, that she's sorry, that she wants to make amends. But I'm done giving chances to people who see me as nothing but a resource to exploit. Yesterday, I had dinner with my real family to celebrate my upcoming house purchase. As we sat around Sarah and Dad's dining table, sharing jokes and making plans for my housewarming party, I realized something important. Sometimes the family you choose is better than the family you're born into. And sometimes, letting go of toxic relationships is the healthiest thing you can do for yourself. In 2 weeks, I'll be signing the papers for my new house. Dad's already planning to help me paint the walls, and Sarah's been sending me links to furniture she thinks would look perfect in my living room. This is what family should be: people who support you, love you, and would never dream of hurting you for their own gain. As for Mom, Richard, and Emily, they can keep their perfect family photos and their manipulative games. I've got something better: a real family, a clear conscience, and soon, a house with exactly 1 set of keys.